Everybody, it is 7:03 and I would like to call our session to. I would love to call. To call our budget meeting to order. A special open board. Do I have a motion?
Kate, it's really hard to hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Tsimshian and Snalyak speaking people. And I would also like to offer that my commitment to recognize. So I would like a motion to adopt the agenda. Trustee Beal, seconder. It was sent in our minutes. We are just going to be sending the
Can you not read the agenda? Is it?
Uh,
Just do that.
agenda. Number 2 is committee reports. 2.1 Finance and Building Committee. 2.11 Tender approvals. 2.1.2 2022-2023 Annual Budget Bylaw. Number 3, a 10-minute question and answer period. And number 4 is adjournment. I have
So
a,
moved.
thank you. All in favor? Approved. Committee reports, 2.1 Finance and Building Committee.
So with respect to the tender approval, we have one other tender that has now closed. This one is for the renovation of Washington Conrad School, the ones upstairs or at the main floor. We did have 2 bids, both local. The low bid was North Coast Adenac Builders Limited. It was somewhat over budget, and so we did some negotiating with them to change a few things to make it come within our funding. So the final amount to be approved would be $396,501.81.
We have a mover, Trustee Meyer.
I'll
and a
second it.
seconder, Trustee Beal, any questions? All in favor? All in favor?
Oh,
Wonderful.
sorry.
Approved.
Put your hand
Thank
down
you.
too low. So she did it.
I am having the heat wave is hitting me.
So
I think we're in Hawaii.
now 2.1.2, the 2022-2023 annual budget bylaw.
So we would first need a motion to do all 3 readings at the same meeting.
I'll make that motion.
And can I pass this on to you as the chair of this
Well,
committee?
we need to finish this motion.
Okay, wonderful. A seconder? Sorry, do we have a seconder to read all 3 motions? I'm going to read it 3 times. I have Trustee Sanchez. See this?
Oh, it's on there. I don't have it.
We sent out copies to be printed.
What's that?
We're having copies printed downstairs.
Oh, good.
Kate, before we get started on the budget, can I say something?
Please. Okay.
That's a vote on that one.
Sorry, before we do that, we'll vote on the motion to have a brief this evening. We have a mover and a seconder, all in favor? So approved.
Okay, do you want me to read the annual budget or you want to hear from Tina first? What would be? Tina?
Tina, thank you. Trustee Laps?
Thank you. I'll take a minute. At a recent ABC meeting, the teachers union president questioned whether I was in conflict. At the time, I said I was not. Obviously, he was assuming to the fact my 38-year-old son has recently completed his teacher certification. As I said, at the time, I believed I was not, and I will refer to a previous time when I was called in conflict, and the secretary treasurer of the day, Dan Roden, did a fair amount of looking because yes, on the surface, everything, conflict of interest rules are very cut and dry, black and white, but there are, small districts, they'd be in conflict all the time and whatnot. So there is other language that goes with it. And at the time, Dan found that the pecuniary interest was so remote that a reasonable person would not see it as a conflict. So that is why I said, no, I wasn't. But because my duty to the board and the district, I did ask that the chair seek legal advice. And of course, they came back with the cut and dry black and white, as expected, that yes, I am in conflict. Now, the conflict is because teachers could be affected by my vote on the budget. So everything that the board does affects the budget. So then where does that leave all decisions, a trustee who is in conflict? Where does that leave that? If we cut something that could affect a teacher, you know where I'm going? So I would add also that most decisions made, we're not going to stop everything. Oh, is Tina in conflict? And this is only affecting me until, to the delight of many, I'm sure, October. So while I still do not feel fully that I am in conflict, quite frankly, I simply do not have the energy any longer to pursue this further or to fight it. You know what? White flag, surrender. I'm done. The budget is the biggest responsibility of the board. If this was something that happened frequently and it was an issue, there would be laws saying similarly, you cannot work for the district and be a trustee. That is an election rule. Well, there is no election rule to say that the mother, the spouse, the child of a teacher cannot run for school trustee. There isn't anything. So clearly there's some room there, but like I said, I'm not interested. So with that said, to my fellow trustees, I'm sorry, because then I feel like I'm abdicating my responsibility to the 6 of you. The budget is a big deal, and I could stay and watch, but I'm just not going to, because after 20 years, this sucks. I'm so proud of my son that he finished. I'm so happy that the district had the PLP program for him and his cohorts, and the district is benefiting from them. He worked almost all of May. So this hurts, but this is the way it is. So I'm not going to stay. I'm going to put on my pajamas and go watch TV like I normally would on a Thursday night. And my daughter, who's in the UK, it's her 28th birthday. So I will go remember what that's like. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Take care.
Amen.
Thank you, Tina. Good night. Can I pass this back?
Yes. Yes, I'll read the bylaw. Thank you. So a bylaw of the Board of Education, District Number 52, Prince Rupert, called the board to adopt the annual budget of the board the fiscal year between 2022 and 2023. Pursuant to Section 113 of the School Act, RSBC 1996 C412, as amended from time to time, called the Act. I'd like to make a motion to read this for a first time, the second day of June 2022.
Seconder. Trustee Meyer. All in favor?
I'd like to read it a second time, this second day of June 2022.
Seconder. Trustee Meyer. All in favor? Thank
I'd
you.
like to read it a third and final time and pass and adopt it this second day of June 2022.
And a seconder. Trustee Horn. All in favor until the end.
No.
Thank you.
on the screen? Is that big enough? The bigger.
I'd like it to be bigger, please.
So the current budget you have in front of you is at a deficit of 699,121. What I did is I kind of put two totals underneath. So as you make decisions as to which things you would like to add or subtract from the budget, the dark green line is your net budget, which you are required to get to zero. Beneath that is kind of the projected contingency funds, which are, once you get to zero, will be the 182,000 we've been talking about. And if you make further cuts, that contingency would be.
Can I ask what the contingency is? I can't see this screen very well. The proposed.
So
We're gonna roll the big screen, that's why.
put it on your blue cord, I think is your short one.
Oh, that's better.
That's it.
Thank you.
That's a lot better way,
So like,
There's lots of reverberation on the sound. We apologize for the sound and thank you for keeping us posted on your end. I understand it's hard to hear.
okay, so I mean, this generally, you're not gonna put this number here, but as you put numbers into a big number, your budget, once you get to 700,000, your budget will now be balanced and your contingencies around 183,000. And you'll have the ability to put those wherever you like. And so the list of items, it's up there. Time for general teachers would be removing those that are left. District CCP systems and so on. More the supplies down below, and then the requests for funding at the very bottom. So I'll leave it to you.
I'll speak. You know, I always have lots to say when it comes to budget. I mean, frankly, I didn't even want to come here tonight because this is not a great day. You know, I was talking to my daughter in Vancouver, said, I got to go and do something awful. And she said, what? My mom doesn't do awful things. I said, I got to go slash the budget. And she said, Mom, I have all confidence in you that you'll make the right choices. Well, I have to support, you know, certain things in respect to years ago that happened between former administrators and myself. Some may still be present here when I didn't support the vice principals, and there wasn't a reason why I didn't support vice principals. I supported them for a reason, and I'll always support them. But at the time, we were losing board funding, and we weren't going to be taking positions away. We just weren't going to be adding them. That caused a huge impact doing that. And in my particular job that I'm dealing with right now, it spreads all over the coast, and I'm trying to staff up. And I have a lot of people retiring, so succession planning is a big thing. So I frankly don't see that it's necessary to cut a vice principal. I guess I look at, yes, do we have 3 principals or, you know, 2.6 to 2? I'm not sure where this $90,000 figure comes from. So I'd have to ask that because I thought that all of our vice principals were teaching vice principals.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna look at cutting a position. Not really thrilled with that whatsoever. Honestly, I think that we are in a school district that has a great need to have strong administrators in our schools, considering that we have children high in poverty, children that need our support. And that's not just done through teachers. That's done through vice principals. That's done through principals. That's done through mentorship. So I can't support some of these things because I know that we have to balance a budget, but I don't feel good when I'm going to go away and start slashing positions out of the district when I know that they're valuable positions. So, you know, I don't know what the rest of the board feels, but I will tell you, with having 6 votes tonight, it's not good. Because there's no tiebreaker. And I'd like to know how we're gonna break a tie tonight if we don't all come to a consensus. So has anyone actually thought about that prior to us holding this meeting tonight? Because I sure would like to know. I sit on different things down south and I've asked different people who sit at that table. There are people who sit in districts that have a spouse who's teachers. They vote because otherwise we would be at a stalemate. We're going to sit here tonight, 6 of us, and decide on a budget. And if we all don't agree, we could be here till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. No, we won't. Just telling you. You might not be, but I'm just telling you. So I'm not sure where we're going with this budget, but I'm just going to tell you how I feel.
Could I just say something?
Yes, I have trustee Meyer and then trustee Sanchez.
Sorry, I'm gonna try to move it along, so I don't know if we had a rebuttal, but I was hoping that we could look at the other part of this list and not talk about people first, or positions first, sorry.
Well,
not people,
that's
but positions.
exactly.
But the stuff that we can possibly reduce that is not going to result in job loss or position.
Trustee Sanchez.
I've been at this type of thing for a long time, and every time we come to this, it's a sad, I didn't want to be here tonight either. And I could understand what's happening with only 6 of us, but I believe that the 6 of us can do it. It's terrible, you know, in terms of what has happened, that Tina cannot be with us. But because I'm part of DCPC, we went through it, we got everything there, and it doesn't matter. It has to be that it is in conflict of interest. And it's sad for us, but it's one of those things. We cannot go against DCPC. We just can't. So that I feel really badly about, because I think we would have had other people who might be able to come in, including Tina, that would have been able to help us along. But here we are. We're 6, and we have to work it out together.
Yes, trustee Horn.
It's going to be another difficult year this year, as we've had many years past, to make these budget cuts. And my aim all tonight is going to be thinking of how do we most keep our students in the best possible position that we can do. That's all that we can do, and I hope everybody takes that into account. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just go back to trustee Meyer. There's the rest of the list.
Is this it? This is the whole list?
So My question on the school supplies line budget is, yeah, the 25%, is that from the original amount or is that from what we took away in our amended budget?
It's from the reduced amount.
Reduced amount,
Okay.
so it's the reduced amount because we took some away from last June.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And what impact will this have on children who rely on not teachers or vice principals or principals supplying with supplies? What impact does this have? Because I go to the store quite often to get cleaning supplies and I see lots of teachers there buying supplies or administrators buying supplies. So what impact is this gonna have when we take this amount of money away?
Sure. Yeah, well, obviously it does impact some of the things that are done in the classroom in terms of, I mean, generally paper is supplied for photocopying. We're talking about other things that teachers do to make their classrooms look better and also to provide an environment where children are more excited and engaged in learning. So I know that many teachers do spend money on a variety of things for their students.
So what you're saying, this is basically photocopy paper only, like limit it to like paper? Or is this other essential pens, pencils, what? It's a makeup of everything, right, Andrew?
Right.
And it's spread over every school.
Correct.
God. Trustee Coombs?
I vote to reduce it by 25%, just with really how people are living their lives now and their families and however they're doing things in their homes on a daily basis. Everything they're doing is sort of towards that and being more creative without having to utilize products like that. So I'm okay with the 25% reduction with school supplies.
I then have trustee Horn.
Thank you. I would also like to ask to scroll back up to the teacher numbers, vice principal number, and ask that question about the vice principal. How do we get $90,000 from reducing 2.6 to 2? How does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, at each school is the formula as to how much time they get released from teaching. And the current formula at the high school has them pretty much at 2.6 releases them all from teaching. And so you would reducing VP timing entirely by doing that. Which is why it's, 60% of the salary.
And is this come in by student numbers as well?
Yeah, the amount has being adjusted every year, gets adjusted based on projected enrollment.
And we believe now that 2 is the correct number for the enrollment that we have. Is that why you've got that number there?
So 2 is the number of principal and vice principals staffing at the high schools. When we used to have 2 high schools, they each had 2, and the number of students is pretty similar today in the high school to what it was back when we had the 2 high schools.
Okay, thank you. Then that to me then is a go. I'm in favor of that principal, vice principal move right there.
Thank you, trustee
Yeah.
Horn.
The other question on the same vein, do we have, is district teaching positions, do we have a staffing change due to lower enrollment also in that position?
So that's the small group of teachers whose positions are not tied to enrollment. The vast majority of teachers by contract, either in classroom or learning services or library, et cetera, are defined by formula. This is the small group of teachers that's not defined by any formula.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, trustee Horn?
Yes, thank you.
I have a question. That 90,000 did not answer for me. I didn't understand how that was a savings of 90,000.
Well, so at the high school currently, that's 2.6 FTE is the amount of release from teaching time that they have. So the amount of teaching time, if we were at a full 3, the teaching time would be about 0.4, but we're down to 2.6 because of a leave, and therefore none of that is teaching time at the moment. So it's the saving of the salary.
Okay,
Yes.
so I guess I'm moving right along here because I'm seeing like flashbacks. And I don't do drugs, but I'm seeing flashbacks here for things on here that is repetitive from years gone by. So can someone explain to me the logic to get rid of 10 EAs? Are we losing EAs? Are people retiring? Are people moving on? So I need the logic that why we would get rid of 10 EAs in a district that's already suffering to supply jobs everywhere. So if we have the ability to keep people, I just need to know why we're looking at 10 EAs.
Yeah, it's not strictly at 10. I mean, the numbers that work out, that's what 10 would be if you were to go to 10. You know, the number of EAs we have in continuing contracts is low enough that, you know, depending on where we set on the number, we'll be posting to fill some jobs as it is. But it's really just looking at, when you look at not just this budget, but the funding protection that's still going to be lost. One of the things that could well happen is deeper reductions to education systems over time as that funding protection gets pulled out of the budget in subsequent years.
As a school trustee, I don't support that. I will not support. These are things that impact students. These are things that have a huge impact to our culture, to our people that need all the support that they can get. So when I look at like some of the top priorities here, I mean, our school district, maybe we should have invited our MLA here tonight, so she could actually witness what we have to go through. Because this impacts students. We said we want to have the less impact that we can have on a student. But these are people that bring our student to where they need to be.
Thank you. I have trustee Sanchez, then trustee Meyer, then trustee Coombs.
Okay, I'm looking at two things, and I'm looking at the vice principals and the EAs. I'm against cutting the EAs and the vice principals, because really, when you think about it, it's the vice principals that I see that's helping along with the EAs. And to cut them, I think it's going to be a great impact on our students, and especially now when they need it so much, because COVID has done its damage. And to cut now for the VPs and the EAs, I just can't see. I can't see. I was thinking about it and I thought, oh my God, what next? I'm sorry, but I can't support those.
Thank you, Louisa. And for clarity, it's not cutting vice principals, it's reducing
Reducing.
Charles Hayes from 2.6 to 2.
Well, even that, because the thing
I
of it-
understand that. I just wanted to
Okay,
ensure
I
that
got
that
you.
was clarity. Thank you.
okay.
So the question I guess we need to, oh,
I have trustee
Sorry,
Meyer
sorry.
and then trustee
Sorry.
Coombs.
Take a turn, Janet.
I can't see you. Hide behind me.
This is what happens when we're in person. So I agree, I can't remember who said it, it was rather trustee Coombs or I think with the 100,000, reduced by 25% for school supplies, only because it's rather school supplies or a person. I also would reduce the budget by 25% of the pro diem travel. I would, it is my understanding that Charles Hayes, that other districts with the same size do not have 3 principal, vice principal positions. So I reluctant to reduce, but I would, and I would be game for the 90,000. And then if enrollment increases, that would be looked at again. I am also, I'm on a roll. I am also in favor, because we have to be really for the 4 itinerant positions. And I will say that reluctantly because I think itinerant teachers are important, and it was a really good way that our district did retention and recruiting. Recruiting was the big thing with itinerant teachers, right? And I just, there, and it sounds bad, but there is an extra position. And so if it can't come out of our TTOC budget, then I would be, to me, the 400,000 is a savings. I'd have to pick those positions more than the other ones, unfortunately.
Trustee Coombs?
Yeah, I just want to say on these topics tonight, like I know by the end of June, we will be balancing the budget, right? And sending in a balanced budget. So these are obviously tough decisions and everybody has to go through those, and every trustee is going to have a different area possibly that they feel that's more, that would like to have more impact, exactly like James and the whole group has said, on the children at the end of the day in different areas, right? So we'll all have those different opinions, but I know everybody would care about each section. And obviously, if the money was there, we had these in place for a reason, right? Because we thought there was impact at one point, and then once children reduce and sizes drop down, then there becomes tougher decisions. I just wanted to say that out front. I really did like, we've done this in the past, just from past, when you get into that area, just for the team's sake, when you get into an area and you can knock off some stuff that you possibly have an agreement and you're moving the needle, then you can actually start seeing the money and where we may be able to not have to reduce as much, and then we can make some finer decisions possibly, right? So I 100% agree. Christy, she's right onto it. The Pro-D travel, I would support that with 25%. I support the school supplies with 25%. The principals, like you said, I've done that for years. I've been a huge, advocate for that, right? But at the end of the day, the students have been reduced, and at any section of any one of our areas of concern, I think we can reduce that also. So I think we can take that off. I'll just start with that for now, and I'll let the rest of the group chime in. But I think we could look at, like, I would put 25 across the board for the maintenance and supplies and equipment. I would take 25% off everything on the bottom, right? Where we think we can reduce internally without bodies. But that's just my opinion, but I'll wait to hear from everybody else, and then we can start getting some figures adding up.
Thank you, Trustee Coombs. I have myself and then Trustee Horn. I would just like to speak on school supplies, perhaps not all of 25%. I live with kids that go to school that come home and say, is our district broke? Because we have no paper. We have no, we have nothing. Can you buy paper and send it to school for kids? So I understand 100 grand is not a person, but I also feel that that has a direct impact on a lot of our kids when we don't have supplies, especially with the equity gap that we have in our community, and for kids to easily be able to access supplies without stigma or judgment. I think I would just like to have a bigger conversation about that. And then I'd also like to know what maintenance supplies and equipment we're actually talking about. And could you, I think there's IT on there as well. I'm not sure. Could you scroll just a wee bit? I think it's number 18. It's okay. You can just pull that bar there if you move the pictures a bit. Yeah, could you tell us a bit what's covered in the maintenance supplies, equipment, and computer equipment?
So maintenance supplies is, just the miscellaneous bits and pieces and things that they're using when they're maintaining, whether it's plumbing, electrical, carpentry, whatever. And as that gets cut, it can potentially put more pressure on the AFD budget and ultimately can impact the number of other projects you might do out of the AFD budget. Of equipment is kind of broad, it's both school equipment and office equipment and some of the maintenance equipment kind of across the board. It just means, you know, your replacements would take a little bit longer over time.
Right.
As the budget gets reduced. And computer equipment, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing in terms of your replacement of laptops or iPads or anything else gets extended. And we're using, the average age of our equipment gets old.
And how are we currently for equipment in the district?
Well, we have lots, but some of them are getting near the end of it.
Thank you. Yes.
Chair, and trustees, you might recall a few years ago, I had made the statement when I was head of the IT department that, you know, it is reasonable to cut within IT in this time of need. But we know that further down the line, we'll probably come to you, or the IT department will come to you and say, could we get a little extra this year because we need to get caught up? And so it is reasonable to, you know, stretch some of our computers an extra year or two. That is reasonable.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Horn?
Yes, I'd move along on the same vein. I also think school supplies has been a big argument over the years because we've already reduced it to the point, like you say, where it's been tight and people have kicked back at us. So my idea would also be to not go the full 25%, maybe 20% instead, but for all of the rest to be the full 25%.
Thank you.
So I'm in agreement with, I mean, the Pro D, I think we all learned over the last 2 years that Pro D can be done through Zoom.
Yes.
I think we've all experienced that in our jobs, our personal life with the school board, so I have no issue with that. School supplies, I totally agree with Kate. I'm not willing to cut $100,000. Not a big fan really of cutting the computer equipment. I think that, I think as, you know, as we've learned through COVID, these are essential tools that we use. I do believe that I'd like to have more information on the learning services to reduce teaching staff by 1. Is that a huge impact on this district if we reduce this by 1? I know.
I mean, the position is up there from a math perspective in terms of the ratios required by the collective agreement, and where our staffing is exceeding it at the moment by sort of more than 1. And you can reduce by 1 and still be meeting all the contractual provisions.
Okay, that's
Okay.
what I needed to know.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Coots?
I am going to target more towards in the classroom. So, I mean, I want to keep people in the classroom. So I am going to agree with the 25, 25, 25 on the bottom 3. And I am going to move my vote as the group, and as it is sensitive, and even it could go to either a 15 or a 20 on the school supplies. I just think we should stay down here because I know everybody's going to struggle with the top section also. I would hope so. So yeah, if you're not doing something down here, you're going to be doing it up there more. So.
Trustee Meyer, then Trustee Sanchez?
I had a question on what's already in the budget. Are consultants still in the budget? Like we always have, like the math consultant come up, or like the Pro D for the teachers, I guess. Like, is that still in the budget, or is that? out
Yes,
of the
they're
budget?
still in the budget at this point.
Do we need them still in the budget? And I don't know, I'm throwing it out there only because, like, I know sometimes it's always the same person, so I'm wondering how much, like, if we can afford to skip a few years of having the same people come out, or if, I mean, if the teachers and the staff and the kids are all benefiting, then, you know, I would keep it in the budget, but really, I don't know, so I'm asking.
Yeah. That goes to the Secretary Treasurer. This is exclusive of, this is to be clear for everyone, this does not include the professional development for the PRDQ.
Right,
or
yes,
prior use.
yes.
So we're clear on that.
I just knew that it
Yeah,
was
that's just right.
teachers going
Yeah.
to the.
In the services line, you have consultants in a few places, and that
Okay.
includes, the educational ones that come up, which varies from year to year. Now, some of that, around implementation day and stuff is really important. But again, the value of who we bring and how often, I would really turn back to the education.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly heard those, sorry, Madam Chair, I've certainly heard that teachers come to me and say, it's repeated people that they're saying, are there others that you could bring in? And we certainly understand that. But it's difficult for me to propose a dollar amount for you.
Right.
But if you're suggesting an amount,
I wouldn't even know
Well,
where to
it's
suggest.
not
I
on
don't know
here,
how
so
much.
it's very hard to.
I don't know. What is that line in the budget?
it's lines from all over the place. Yeah,
Yeah.
as numeracy,
Okay.
literacy, yeah.
Right, okay.
Trustee Sanchez?
I'm looking at 14, 15, 16. And I am wondering if, we could reduce the 20 instead of 25 for all three. Instead of 25%, if we could go 20, I think that'll help a little bit. Just adding all three together.
Unfortunately, by doing that, I'm gonna speak out of turn here. We're never gonna get a balanced budget tonight. We're gonna be going more up there and.
Well, that's my thing.
I
It's
know,
yours.
but I'm just saying, like, you're the one that doesn't want to cut up there, do you?
Thank you. I will ask the group how they feel of, 14, was it?
14,
14,
15,
15, 16.
To change that to 20%, or would you like to leave it as it is at 25? Trustee Horn?
I wish to leave as the shows right now, the first 4, and to include the 34 from computer equipment, please.
Thank you.
I also second that.
Thank you. Trustee Meyer?
I agree.
Yes, and myself. However, I would just offer 15 on line 15 to just think about that.
Can I just, one clarifying with Cam and that, have we ever had approach and does it fit into grant money when it comes back to, say, when it is in a school supplies where we can find that angle, or the computers when we get stuff from certain grants from, say, the port to Ridley or over time like that? Is there any type of grants out like that locally that would fit into categories that are down in this section?
Not very often. I mean, the one area you would most frequently see something is computers. And a lot of times PACS used to fundraise for computers, as you'll know, in the past. And occasionally that's come from somebody. But you have to dig pretty hard sometimes to find those opportunities.
Okay, just checking, just as an option sometime at some point, maybe somebody's knowing that we're in need that way for our district. And if it does come to that, right, where we were in, let's say the technology we currently have today is working and we're halfway through a year, or we're, things are not up to snuff, you never know, maybe somebody can help us locally.
Thank you, Superintendent Sanborn.
Yeah, Trustee Kuntz, industry, local industry and different service organizations have been very good, along with the PACs, providing us with, a lot of technology. Ridley Terminals was very good to us for 3 years. That industry, we have not, we do write proposals seeking grants for different projects. And we will continue to do that to help out the district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So by looking at this, to get to a balanced budget, we would need to still take 473,000 from the budget. If we can move to line 7, there seemed to be conversation about the itinerant positions. We've heard from Trustee Meyer and I believe Trustee Kuntz on this line. Am I correct?
I'm good right now.
Okay. I would like to hear from who hasn't spoken on the district itinerants.
Well, we've had much discussion on this over the past few months, and it is a painful thing to look at that line. It's you know, one of the biggest lines up there, but I think considering that the rest of those positions would be impacted more so, I agree that we have to eliminate it.
Trustee Coons?
Do we, this was from a past meeting and I just don't want to, I want to make sure the quote was correct, that the itinerant teachers that we currently have would more than likely, the ones we committed to in 2022 would have positions, more than likely. I don't know, it might not be 100% official, but more than likely they would have. And the 4 itinerant teachers that would say beyond here, that would be cutting the 400 would be new ones that we'd be approaching or trying to sign.
Chair, Trustee Kuntz, definitely from our forecast, many district itinerants will be seeking positions that are coming up. I believe there were postings went out today or closing today that were part of our, what we call our spring staffing process following our protocols.
Did that answer your question, Trustee Coons?
Yeah. Excellent, that helped out a lot.
Trustee Horn?
Thank you. I'd like to ask Andrew, do we still spend money on recruiting?
Generally, oh, sorry, Madam Chair, Trustee Horn. Generally, we have saved a lot of money in that budget because we have not needed to recruit in any, certainly not with teachers, but with specialty positions such as the speech, OT and speech positions. So some specialty positions.
Thank you. So based off what you've told us and about the itinerant positions, which is 4 positions, I take it. And I agree that we could cut those 4 positions and they would then roll into they would then take up positions within our district. And that we could also remove the 90,000 from GHSS to 2.
Thank you, Trustee Horn.
I second that.
Thank you, Trustee Coons.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Meyer.
All right.
I agree with that. Trustee Sanchez, would you like to speak for Trustee Beal?
No,
I
because
think
I think it's there's not
it's
going to be an
okay.
issue
Yeah.
because
Thank you. And Trustee Sanchez, I haven't heard from you.
I'm okay.
Thank you.
Not happy, but I'll
And
go along with the rest.
that's also including the Charles Hayes Vice Principal. Thank you. Can you put that on there, please?
And this might leave you a little bit of room for school supplies.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be good.
I would, if a clarification just on the learning services, a little background from what we did have to what we are going to currently have once this, if this was reduced, just need some more clarity on line 9.
So we're at about 18 teachers, and that would take it down to 17 teachers overall.
And is that just, Andrew, is that would be just a per student ratio a little bit and sort of overall that way?
Correct. It is, Trustee Kuntz, it's making sure that we do fulfill the obligations that we are contractually required. It is not a great desirable thing to do, but given our declining enrollment, that's why it's there.
It's an option, that's all.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Horn.
I would ask Cam, could you please roll the 16,879 right into school supplies, please?
That's 6, 8, 9. Okay.
Thank you.
think you did the opposite.
You did the
You're
opposite.
supposed to plus. your minus.
Plus, not minus.
No, he did.
Reduce the budget, that's correct.
Reduce the budget to.
Oh, you're reducing.
We're cutting
okay.
less.
I was gonna say,
Taking less.
taking
That
less,
leaves
sorry.
like
You're-
Okay.
both of us are reading that
37,000
same
for,
way.
37,000 for.
Okay.
Yes, Trustee Meyer.
So my thought is that because, you know, we projected a lower enrollment, because that seems to be every year we have a lower enrollment and then we get caught when we're not projected that way. My fear is that come September, my joy, not my fear, my joy would be that we would have a spike in enrollment. And that projects that, you know, the city keeps telling us that we're doubling our population. So every September, I'm hoping we're doubling our student population. My fear would be that our budget and our contingency at 183 does not even support 2 extra teachers.
And I would also offer this doesn't include a contingency. does it?
That's.
Yeah,
the
the
contingency.
projected
Right now, they did
contingency
that
line
183,000. That's our
Yeah,
projection
that's
from
what
this
I
year.
thought.
Like that, when we get to the end of the audit, that number will change. It won't be precisely that. We won't know that is still late August.
Sorry, if we made the cuts that we have now, we would have a contingency of 182,000.
That's what we
Projected.
started with as a
Yeah.
projection. But you're correct that, you know, if we needed to add 2 more divisions.
That's
Right.
That would be enough money
Yes.
for 2 more divisions.
Exactly. And so playing Tetris.
What else do you want to cut, Christy?
I know, it's awful. It's awful. But honestly, I worry about September and I worry about them coming, if nothing happens and we stay the same and we come, you know, or if something happens and we stay the same, we have to cut like mad in February, and then this whole process starts again where we're then starting from the bottom again in September. And so I am wondering, and I don't know, I honestly don't know what to cut out of line 8, 9, or 10 to equal $100,000. But
How
if-
about,
you
how
know,
about
if
what-
there is something that gives us an extra $100,000 and that gives us almost 3 teaching positions. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are.
But we're
That's my
gonna
thought.
lose 1 teaching position if we take 1 away now, right? I guess
1
it-
teaching position and 2 education assistants to give
Mhm.
yourself the padding you need.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I have Trustee Horn on the speakers list.
Thank you. I definitely don't agree. The numbers have definitely not shown what they've announced. If you look at our enrollment, we are on a steady decline, no matter how much that the port increases its size. Don't believe that is a proper way of thinking about that, and I don't wish to cut any staff positions just to push the contingency up for this position. Thank you.
And we've
Thank
been
you, Trustee
discussing,
Horn. Trustee Beal?
we've been discussing this for the last year, projections, and I'm pretty confident that Prince Rupert's not in a position to double its population. We don't have the land mass to produce housing. We're continuing seeing either decline, we'll lose 10 students and we gain 5, but they're all people that's moving in from, you know, areas that's within our, you know, within our coast, right? I don't feel, I mean, I know that it's always good to have contingency, but it is,
Yes,
especially when, you know, you gotta look at the future and you don't know, right? It's like your house, something could go wrong and you didn't have that little extra money in there to fix it, but I'm not basing my decision on that the population of Prince Rupert's gonna explode overnight or anything else, because it may next year, but that's next year. So the most that I would be willing to cut is like maybe 1 EA, but that's it. That's all I'm willing to do.
Ditto for me.
Thank you, Trustee Beal and Trustee Sanchez. There was conversation about line 9, learning services,
It could be less than a full teacher.
and it could be less than a full teacher in line 8 or line 9. Trustee Horn?
I don't believe we should be cutting anything from this line 9. We have 1 extra than the contract says. but we need these positions. They help our students so much.
Mhm.
Also, the EAs, I do not wish to cut any EAs. I do believe we should sit at with the number we're at now.
Or especially now. The COVID thing, no cuts there.
I will chime in because I will not be at next year's budget, as I will be retiring. That, just so you know, I do warn you, the guys and girls, that you will be in the same position if you don't give some padding. So you will be back at the board again at some level looking, and remember, supplies and travel and maintenance and equipment, there's always going to be a minimum. There's only so far you can go with that 13% that we have in that category of our 87% budget. So at some point, when we lose funding for protection, then it's going to continue to go there, right? So you will be back at this stage again if you do not have some room, but that's just my own personal warning of we talk like we haven't been in this situation, but we have many times, and some of the reason why is because we don't make big enough cuts at one time. So it is okay. You go with the hope, and you hope that things turn around and somehow there's money that floods in from the government or floods in extra, but that's just my overall opinion. But I'm good with supporting the group on however we end up getting to here today. So right now we've made some good decisions, I believe, where it should be, in my opinion.
Thank you, trustee Fields.
I think maybe, I'm not totally against like cutting the learning service, but I think that we could do it maybe, I'm sure we could put halftime into that position, cut it by 50%, yeah?
It's really.
He is right. He's absolutely right. Whoever's going to be sitting at this table next year is going to be making hard decisions. So we have to be mindful of that. At the same time, we have to be mindful that we represent students, and the best way to do that. And how do we do that? Well, if we can take a little bit away from here or there and still have those bodies, then
That's so important, though. I don't want to see any reason there. It's so important. And I'm harping on it again. We need it now because our students are behind. And those learning services are there to help us to bring them up. So please, we need to keep them.
Trustee Meyer?
So I am wondering if we cut to a half a position, that would bring our contingency over the 200,000, which would be at least, that would be 2 teachers, and that we're not, if we have to hire new teachers in September, then we're not cutting from something else because the money is there. I don't believe we added a whole lot of teachers in September, and we still had to cut an enormous amount of our at our budget in February, or amended budget. And next September, with funding protection, we will be back at it at 350,000 at least in the hole. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to make the most out of what we have, and I'm a little afraid. But that's all. I would love to see that contingency at least at 2.
I don't disagree with that. I think you're absolutely right.
Yes.
And I'm not at all opposed to that 50% reduction and 1 EA. That would give the padding necessary, because I believe that there is going to be EAs that probably are amongst the retirement age now anyway, so we may still not have an impact.
It's still the bodies in the chairs that we're wanting. We're totally wanting those people to be able to give more assistance to our children for sure in either way, right? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to just turn this to Superintendent Samuel.
Right, trustees, there's also, I'm just pointing out that we have the district teaching positions as well. I'm certainly in agreement with you about the cuts in the classroom that directly affect the classroom, all of our positions. do directly affect the classroom. So I'm in no way saying that, district teachers aren't anywhere near as important, but I'm just saying that is also something for your consideration with the district positions, and as you've been talking about reductions as opposed to elimination.
Have you completed that thought?
Yes.
think Mark was first, but
Oh,
I'm
sure.
not sure.
I have trustee Meyer and then trustee Coontz.
Oh, okay. I am wondering if we are allowed to give leeway here and combine line 8 and 9 and say, we would like to take the 50,000 or, a 0.5 and then leave that up to the discretion of our superintendent, who would just know more than all of us.
I can do it.
I don't know if we're allowed to do that. Or if everyone-
Christie, I've never heard that, but I like it. Is it-
Thanks, Bart.
It can be done.
But I've never ever heard that, but you know what, like that, if it's possible that it's in there, but really you got $100,000 to be able to work. And once the kids are in the classroom and they position the classrooms with the certain teachers in every school, and then that's when that stuff sort of floods out. So at that point, if you were in trouble for district teachers to fill the classrooms, because those ratios sometimes work out not fun, the kids don't fall in correctly. Sometimes that adds an extra teacher and stuff like that, where it has to happen. So that's where Andrew would have that flexibility. And then that's when it may come out to be a full learning resource, learning services. And if it went the other way around, where the teachers, it worked out good and the teachers had room on their side, well, then we leave the learning services. I really like it. I don't know if it's possible, but let's hear from Andrew.
Well, certainly trustee Coontz, giving the superintendent the leeway, I know that's something that I know other districts do, where it's, you're passing it to the superintendent to be the bad guy. But, in much like in our working sessions where these decisions are difficult. But again, if we look at what I'm hearing the trustees talk about is the philosophy and the desire of the cuts that don't affect right at the classroom level. And certainly you've been very clear on that. So there's, within the district positions, that would be something that we would go back and look very carefully at.
So my question is, would that look like 50 from learning services and then 50 from district teaching position?
Mhm.
And then that could look at one teacher, or that could look at learning service, depending on what makes the most sense for our
That's right.
district.
Oh, I was just thinking 50 combined, like 25 and 25, but he puts it where he needs it the most or doesn't need it the most.
But
Takes it
this
away
could
from
look
where-
like a
yeah.
whole classroom, right? Like if a classroom's not needed, that would be,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That
you
yes.
have the
That's
flexibility.
what-
Yeah, like just, yeah.
And then would it make sense
And
to
then put
have
the
one
EA
less
back.
EA? Would you like to
Yes.
put the EA back?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me
Yes.
too.
let's put the EA back.
I agree with that.
And that gives us 283.
Mhm.
And so there's change in there.
And
If
we could
needed.
bump up school supplies if we.
That's okay, man.
I would just also like to say that this, having a contingency as well, looks, yes, planning for whoever's in these seats
I
next
don't
year,
know. I can't see what it's.
but also come February, if things need to happen
Mhm,
for our
Mhm.
students, we have a buffer.
mhm.
How are people feeling?
I don't think anyone
Nobody-
of us is
nobody
feeling
feels
good.
great.
I mean, none of us is feeling good. We'd love to come in here
I
and actually add it to the budget rather than reducing the budget. But I think it's a sound budget. It's what we need to do to keep operations going and ensure the children get the necessities that we can give them, the tools that they need. I don't like everything we've done, but this is where we stand. And
Sorry, if I can reframe, knowing what we had to do, how are you feeling?
well, we're, like I said, I'm happy with this. This is, I think,
And
should
can I
be voted
ask
on now.
how is staff doing?
Yes. Yeah, certainly what the trustees should be aware of is it's very perplexing for us to look at a town that is busting at the seams. You know, housing is difficult to find. Industry is building up all around us, and yet our enrollment is dropping. It used to be when I first came here, parents would line up overnight to have their child in French immersion. And now the enrollment in French immersion is very low. I don't know if one class is less, you guys out there. Yeah, we're one less class in French immersion. That's inconceivable. But it tells you that our population is changing. And so everything is driven by enrollment. And that's why we're where we are today.
Where we are.
So, do we have a motion to approve this budget? We have
I made the motion
Yes.
to adopt it. Now someone's gonna have to
Yes.
second it.
Second,
So
Sorry,
you've done the
Secretary
third
Jenkins.
reading, but you would need a motion now to accept what I recorded as the amendment. to the
Oh,
budget.
yes, of
okay,
course.
go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the amended budget.
Second.
We already had a seconder, correct?
No, this is the amendment.
Thank
to
you, thank you.
the
Oh,
reading.
seconded by trustee
Yeah,
Sanchez.
second.
Would you like to speak to that motion?
No, I think I've said enough. We
discussed
probably
it
don't want to hear
already.
anything more from me tonight.
Trustee Horn?
I would like to speak before the whole budget gets voted on, if that's what we're doing at this point.
Yes, thank you.
I still like to put in my position that we don't need such a big contingency, but I fear the board, that's where they're going, and I will support the board in that respect. Other than that, I think the board has done very well to get this budget balanced.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustee
James.
Horn. We have a motion on the floor. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? All in favor? Approved.
And then you vote on the third reading now as amended.
And now we will vote on the third reading as amended. A mover?
I moved
It's
that.
already moved.
Oh,
No, I
sorry.
removed that. Did we just vote on
Thank
it
you.
now?
All in favor?
Yes, we-
Approved.
Was there a question and answer period?
There
Yes.
is.
Thank you, everyone. So I have a question.
Somebody read what David Queen
I
said.
sure can. It says, where are the retirees' speech and language and site shown in the budget?
So the positions are still in the budget and recruitment is active for those positions.
Yes, thank you so much. We are in our 10-minute question and answer period. If there are any other questions from Zoom or in person. Oh,
Gabriel has his hand
Mr.
up.
Burrow,
Hi, sorry, if I can, I'm still a little puzzled about how, well, it seems like there will be layoff happening in the next few days in the teaching staff. And based on the collective agreement, I still really don't know how that will happen, as we have passed the deadline of May 31st, and the saving that you're predicting by passing the budget so late may not actually be there or all there. I think that'd be a big problem. And I think that's something that the trustees have been informed over and over, that passing the budget past May 31st would definitely create lots of problems.
thank you, Mr. Burrow. Would you like to speak? Thank you, Mr. Burrow. All I can say is that I do hope that moving forward, our district is well ahead of this deadline when we're passing, whomever is sitting here passing the budget in 2023.
I understand that, but no matter what, the collective agreement will have to be followed.
I understand that. Thank you.
Okay.
Or not, no, okay.
questions? First call for questions. Second. Not seeing any, a motion to adjourn. Trustee Koontz and trustee Horn, all in favor? Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for attending virtually. Thank you for attending in person. Thank you for your work tonight, trustee Horn and trustee Koontz. Thank you, trustee Meyer, trustee Beal, and trustee Sanchez.
Thank you.
And trustee Joy.
And trustee Tully. And all the audience.
It's only 8:15.
Good job. Not one in the morning. like you.
I think the latest has been like
It could
11
have been
something.
there.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
I
Good night.
doing this